Bom dia, óbvias! Aqui é a Marcela Ceribelli e vim contar pra vocês que eu tô participando do Amigo Secreto de Podcasters do TikTok. Eu tirei o Eduardo do The News, que me acompanha em tantas manhãs por aqui. O meu presente vai ser o livro Olhos d'Água, da gigante Conceição Evaristo. Com a sua prosa poética e visceral, ela dá voz a histórias de sofrimento e resistência.
O TikTok esse ano fez milhões de pessoas voltarem a ler. Um simples TikTok pode gerar um grande impacto. Descubra livros incríveis e muito mais no TikTok.
Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
Welcome to Supernatural Circumstances, the podcast where we take you down the rabbit hole into the fantastic world of the strange, the paranormal, and the unknown. I'm Morgan Knudsen.
And I'm Santa Claus. It's time to grab your eggnog and maybe some hot chocolate or, I don't know, a sugar cookie of some description or a sugar plum, whatever the heck that's supposed to be. And come along with us in this week's adventure. It's a snowy one because it's Christmas time.
It is Christmas. And if you get to be Santa Claus...
I'm not really Santa.
Oh, okay. Well, now I'm disappointed and you are not getting cookies and milk this year. I'm leaving carrots out for the reindeer, though.
Well, fair enough. They need something anyway. So we're talking to Richard Moschella. He's an author and a psychic medium, and he has a really different take on celebrating Christmas from the medium's perspective, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I was so excited when I saw his book come out. It's called Spirits of the Yuletide, and it is a book that I really believe everybody at Christmas needs. And I'm not one of these people that necessarily recommends tons of books, especially around Christmas. It's hard to find a good Christmas book in that regard. But this is one that will, no matter where you are in your life, no matter why you celebrate Christmas, whether you're religious or whether you're spiritual, or whether you're having a rough time at this time of the year, or whether you're really happy at this time of the year, this is literally a book for everybody. And when I got into reading it and Richard sent me a copy, I could not put it down, and I was so touched by it that I knew this had to be our Christmas episode.
I agree, and it's a fantastic take on some older traditions that we may or may not be aware of origins of and interesting ways of celebrating. So let's have a conversation with Richard Moschella.
Absolutely.
Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Metodologia por projetos. Preparação para o Enem. Atividades extras gratuitas, como acesso a oficinas, simulados, vagas de estágio, Olimpíadas do Conhecimento e muito mais? Esse é o Ensino Médio Técnico do Senac. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
Ei, você aí que gosta tanto de aprender. Sabia que a transição energética justa já faz parte da sua vida? Com a Petrobras, ela está no apoio a projetos socioambientais, no desenvolvimento de energias renováveis e na redução de emissões. Com inovação e respeito ao meio ambiente, a Petrobras é líder na transição energética justa. E isso é bom para todo mundo. Petrobras, o Brasil é a nossa energia. Brasil, União e Reconstrução.
Welcome, everybody, to Supernatural Circumstances. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all of those things. It is finally the holiday season, and we are really excited to kick into this lovely Christmas episode, as we do every single year. And Richard Moschella is joining us today to talk about his incredible book, and I say that very genuinely, not just because I'm sitting here with the author. Uh, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's called Spirits of the Yuletide. And so Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Morgan and Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we were just so thrilled with this book. And I really, once I got finished, I knew it was going to be really good, but once I got finished with it, I knew just how important it was to have you on the show, because this book is not just, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's so full of information, but it's a book that I think everybody who is either, at the peak of joy this holiday season or at the bottom of the barrel needs to pick up and read, because this talks about not only, Christmas and traditions and pagan background and whatnot, but what it has to do with the spiritual realm, reconnecting with loved ones that have passed away, celebrating with spirit. And that, to me, I have not seen a Christmas book like this. So this is, to me, this is really fantastic. So first of all, congratulations on that.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah. It's so good. And you start out with the history of where some of this stuff comes from, like back in the 1500s, Scandinavia and things like that. Do you want to sort of set the stage a little bit?
Yeah, the stage for the Yule. I mean, I grew up Catholic, so I grew up bringing a Christmas tree inside and just thinking that's what us Catholics do. So as I started taking a deep dive and seeing these traditions that we have in the Catholic faith and seeing where they really came from was just mind blowing to me, because I'm like, this is older than this. And when you start seeing the connections to the pagans and the folklore, and why we bring the evergreens inside is to remind us that there'll be a renewal, that spring will come again. And everything has a purpose. Everything is part of that ritual, right? That ritual of Yule, and honoring our ancestors and honoring those on the other side of the veil. And as a Catholic that started going through this and reading more into the pagan beliefs and where this comes from, my mind was blown. I remember in my teens, I started to talk to people about this, and I started talking about these beliefs and the ritual and Yule, and they looked at me like I had like 9 eyes, because it's like, well, how dare you challenge, like what? No, I'm like, this goes back a long time ago. And it's something that I've always integrated when I do my public talks about the Yule and this time of the year, that our ancestors are close. And we all think it's like Samhain, right? That, that's when the veil is thin and we could commune with those on the, but we go right through Halloween and we go right into the Yule season. They're very much the same. It's honoring the past. It's getting ready for the darker times of the year. It's huddling your family together and embracing that togetherness. Back then, you didn't know if your family was going to make it through. Mm-hmm. Food, starvation, warmth. So it's truly a season of honoring your family, honoring the connections to those we have here physically and also across the veil. As I started to think about this, and me being a medium, I said, I would love to add a perspective of mediumship to this book. I would also like to honor tradition. I would like to honor the pagan ritual of Yule. But what I also wanted to do was make a guide to anyone that's going through anything, whether you're having a great season or you're really in grief because you're missing someone. And I wanted to talk about energy and how that affects us, because also this could be a dark time for a lot of people on different levels. So I wanted to talk about energy work. So this book was really a labor of love. And putting it out, I said to my publisher, we could get it out by, November with my fingers crossed. I'm like, we're good, because, I really wanted this out there for this season. And the idea of the book came to me. I'm sitting on a beach on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. And the book starts out with, this story, because I'm sitting on the beach and I'm hearing Christmas music playing, and it's July. Mm-hmm. And it like hits me. And I literally, and this is, I think, a nudge from spirit, because I'm sitting on the beach and I'm hearing, White Christmas, and I'm thinking, like, what's my next book? And I'm hearing Christmas songs and the sun's glaring. I smell sunscreen and I'm like, Christmas. Christmas in July. And it just hit me. And then from there, I always carry a notebook with me. So I start writing ideas. I'm like, a medium's perspective of Christmas. So for the rest of the vacation, my wife was like, "What are you doing?" Because I'm constantly like writing and I'm doing little outlines here and there. And that's where the book was born. It was on Cape Cod, Massachusetts in the height of summer, but it just needed to be flushed out. So I went back. Yeah, it went back to when I was a kid and all those pagan rituals that I'm like, we need to include this. I want people to understand. I want people to know the imagery of Santa Claus and how Santa Claus is linked to Odin and the Wild Hunt. This burly man with a white beard flying through the sky on a horse. We adapted that to, over time to change, but like all this stuff goes back to ancient times.
On that note specifically, that was the one thing that I was so excited to talk to you about today was the medium's perspective of this book. Because not only is it just super educational for people that want to know about Christmas, which is fantastic, but I love this aspect of the medium's perspective. Because to me, Christmas is very, very synonymous with what I've come to understand from source energy, from spirits, which is abundance and joy and love and connection and all of these different things. And you talk a little bit about this specific aspect in your book, which is the idea of giving certain kinds of gifts. And I really loved this aspect of what you were saying, where, whether it be giving that connection. You talk about it in terms of, sort of allowing yourself to be a channel for deliver different messages from spirit and things like that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, through a lot of my mediumship readings, when I'm sitting across from my sitter or I'm sitting in front of a group, what comes through is not what they owned in the possessions. It's really like the memories. And the places that they've gone and the moments that were shared. So I always talk about this time of year is to give the gift of memories, give the gift of an experience rather than something like a watch, because it's in the experience that you're really creating memories that are going to last a lifetime rather than a watch. It's going to stop working and it will be thrown out or, because it's through those memories that, spirit connects. We connect through love, through joy, through excitement. So I always say you give the gift of experience. So a lot of this time of the year, people are wondering, what can I get my loved one? What can I get a gift of experience, whether it's taking them out to a play, going to see a show, going for a trip, book, something, go somewhere, create the memories, right? Because you never see a luggage rack on the back of a hearse. Like you could have everything in the world. You could have the 40-foot yacht and it's not doing nothing for you, and I always say, and if you don't have anything to give for money, create, give love, give, up. You can always uplift someone's spirits by complimenting them.
Bake a plate of cookies.
By small gestures. Yeah. I mean, really, it's the simple act of giving. Even if you get to the core of who Saint, Nicholas was, I mean, it's all about giving. It's in giving to others that you really give to yourself. So through mediumship, that has always come across. It's the memories, right? I'm talking about, trips that people have taken to the lake and, like these memories that like come through that instantly connects that person with their loved one on the other side. There are some items that come forward from spirit that they do share. Like one reading, I'm sitting across from my sitter and I said, this older man's coming, and I sketch him. And I said, his hands are very well worked. He's showing me like real calloused hands, and I'm seeing wood carving and like working with wood. So I would put him as a carpenter. So the woman sitting across from me, I see her eyes start getting a little watery, and she goes, my dad was a carpenter. Okay. Well, now I'm seeing a dollhouse is starting to come through my, mind's eye. I'm seeing the imagery of a dollhouse. And she goes, wow, my dad passed away before he could finish the dollhouse. I have it. And just this week, I started working on it to finish it with my daughter. So right then and there was that one piece of tether that connected the dollhouse to her, to the memory of dad. And now that he's realizing that she's working on the dollhouse with her daughter. So there is a connection. So I even say, if you do give something, make it personal. Sign a book, give the night before Christmas and put something nice in that book that can be handed down. If you're going to give something that could be handed down and shared with future generations, because that sentimental gift now would be $20, but to your grandchild, to their grandchildren, it's priceless, special, meaningful, and it don't have to cost a lot of money at all.
You buy something this Christmas and it's in the trash next time because, it's broken or whatever, but a memory, like you say, lasts forever. It's something that will hopefully last forever.
Yeah.
But I think it does. I mean, here, like how many people that, have we had on the show that have either had near-death experiences or, have connected exactly like what you're saying, Richard, where it's the memory of a smell that comes through, or a memory of, a certain outfit that the apparition has on, or, anything like that. And I've heard again and again, including in my great-great-grandfather's works when he was channeling with Louis Benjamin, when Louis Benjamin was receiving, my great-great-grandfather was writing all this stuff down. And that was one of the things that they were saying as well, as the humble ones of the 20th plane. They were saying, we don't like visually see in the same way that you guys see, because in order to do that, you need eyeballs, right? And they said that's not how we perceive things, but we remember energy. We remember how energies feel and how they felt. And when we interact with them in non-physical, we know you because of how you feel. And all of those things, whether there are people out there, of course, that believe in the, Akashic records or whatever, but all of these different traditions have to do with exactly that, which is these memories, these thoughts that are in the ether, like they're out there and we can tap into those things. So to me, it makes sense. And it gives more meaning, I think, in when we're out buying a gift or we're out thinking about, well, what are we going to do for somebody? What do we want to have last? Because they are going to connect with that. They're going to connect with that, let alone us.
100% right. And it's the ritual. It's the coming together, being together, sharing those together moments. And song. I mean, song joins people. It raises the vibration. I mean, that just in itself, when we gather, when we carol, when we come together, that's that togetherness that is at the core of Yule. And that is important. Like, all these little aspects are important. And I look back, I'm 42. When I look back at all my Christmases, I have more memories of the people and the get-togethers than I do the presents that I received under my tree. I mean, the Batman 1989 playset was at, a pretty high level, but it's the memories that I have of the people, that we had the Christmas Eves, and that my aunt would take us to the city to go see the tree. And, those are the memories that last forever. And it's really not what was under that tree that lasts. So again, as we move into this season, and any of the listeners are thinking about, what should I think? Personal things, think things you can give that will have meaning as time goes by.
Would you say too that it almost comes down to the feeling place? Because we hear about this again and again and again with intention setting, and I mean, we'll talk about that in a second. That ability to set an intention, whether you're gifting something, whether you're interacting with somebody, all of those things is so important in just manifestation in general. And of course, Christmas really is about manifestation, right? I mean, that's kind of the whole thing.
Totally.
Yeah. It's why the slogan on the side of Macy's for years was believe, right? Like, I mean, it's all about manifesting and that magic. And for some reason at Christmas, for whatever it is, people tend to believe that this is the era where this magic can occur, when we know it's all year. We know that it's all year, but I think you're touching on something that's really important, which is that setting those intentions, whether it be for yourself or whether it be interacting with other people or whichever. Do you want to touch on that?
Sure. I mean, we get into this time of year and all of a sudden there's like a shift. I put that in the book. There's a shift that happens. And everyone says, oh, I'm in the Christmas spirit. And you see people start giving. You see rates of like charities that are collecting money start just skyrocketing. And it's for 4 weeks. For 4 weeks, you see all, graphs start going up. The Salvation Army starts doing well. People are donating. People are bringing food to the hungry. They're going to help the poor. And then you get into January 1st and we just drop back down to an all-time, low where the spirit's gone. Well, why can't the shift last all year and it only lasts for 4 weeks?
Yeah.
I think a lot to do with media. We're all reminding people, oh, this is the season of giving. But if they just look inside and say, wait, we can continue this. We could keep this shift that we have that's a temporary shift and make it maybe a few month shift. Maybe, it might be hard for them immediately to say, this is going to be me from now on. But if you just start extending that each year a little longer and a little longer, you start living in it, right? You start living in that like inspiration. You start living that inspirited way of saying like, this is good. This is how we should be. We should care about our fellow man and actually care about one another instead of this is mine and that is yours. And, we kind of look beyond a lot of things during the holiday season that we're so judgmental about during other months. It's definitely a shift that happens in our consciousness in society that I just wish that we could continue it. And I wrote about it, and it's very important to me because I think when we have a shift like this, like that ascension, while we're still here, right, and we gain this insight, it definitely helps us as souls, evolve and move forward than rather regress. So that's very important, I think, is knowing that the Christmas spirit doesn't have to stop on January 1st. We could live that throughout the year. And it doesn't have to end.
Isn't it true that, what people are feeling is their own alignment? I think that's what it is. Yeah, like people are feeling their own alignment. It's not, we perceive it as something that's happening out there, when we go look at beautiful Christmas lights and we go look at,
right.
And it's wonderful. I love looking at Christmas lights. It's one of my favorite Christmas activities to do. And, and putting up the tree with little Galen, it's one of my favorite things to do. But I could put that tree up and not have that same energy if Galen and I weren't enjoying the time we were spending together putting up the tree. Like it's not coming from the tree. It's coming from the fact that we are putting effort into spending time doing something special together, and that only happens once a year. But it's so interesting to me. Like I think people tend to think that it's something outside, but that alignment, that joy is exactly what, it's exactly what so many people that channel and that do all these different things. They say, follow your passion, follow your excitement. It feels like Christmas morning. And I've heard that again and again and again, where it's like, no, that's what it should feel like is Christmas morning. And I think that is a shift that people could benefit from, is realizing that it's your alignment. It's your alignment that you're feeling, and you can get there regardless.
Yeah, and it can happen, and when you look inward too at your journey and your personal journey and how far you've come, and you start thinking about all the people that loved you to where you are and taught you and inspired you and made you the person you are sitting across from me today. This is the time of year that I actually send that gratitude. It's like, thank you, because that was the ultimate gift, is the inspiration, the people that inspired, encouraged, and you kind of look at them now, the people that are no longer here, the family members that are no longer here, and we honor them. We honor them by carrying on those traditions for the next generation. We honor them by singing the songs that they sang to us, baking the stuff that they made, and honoring them rather than saying they're gone, it's too depressing to think. You can't stop, and they wouldn't want you to stop, because through mediumship reading, so many spirits have come forward, and that's the one thing they want you to keep going on. They want you to keep experiencing that family togetherness. They don't want traditions to end. In fact, it drives them crazy that people cause rifts and split families up, and most of the time it's over material things. It's over money. It's over property,
money.
they want people to come together because that is the true essence of the family, and that's the true essence of this season.
Again, like you were saying, people get stuck, right? They get wrapped up in whatever is going on in the moment. It's so easy for people to, I think, to lose that connection. And I think you touched on something that was really, really important, which is that these spirits, source, these entities, this consciousness wants the celebration. And I think that's one thing that I see a lot of people get stuck in, where they're like, nope, I'm not celebrating. There's no more Christmas. I don't want to celebrate anything because, so-and-so is gone, and whatever the reasoning is. But that's the one thing that I've really come to know in all my years of parapsychology and understanding some of the messages that come through is exactly like what you were saying, is that the length of time in which you grieve is not a mark of how much you love someone. And they want that celebration. They want to be a part of that celebration. Like, put the chair out. If the person's not there, put the chair out. Believe me, they're going to be there. They will show up. So be prepared for that. But they will show up, and it's, they are still a part of it. And the last thing I think that, these spirits want is to look back on the family and see a legacy of devastation and grief. I don't believe that that's what they want to see. I think they look back and they want to see something that is bright and joyful and something that they can resonate with from their new.
Raise the vibration rather than bring it down, and it's in the high vibration that I feel that spirit is around. When we reach the higher vibrations, that's where spirit is. They don't want to see resonate low and people being, just stuck in turmoil and grief and that depression that comes with it. My, mom and, in our family, we just lost our Aunt Mary, and she was and I dedicated the book. She's one of the aunts that I put her picture up. But Aunt Mary was just a pinnacle of our Christmas Eve. She would do the 12 days of Christmas with the wooden spoon. And let me tell you, when she pointed that spoon at you, you better know what you were going to be. 12 lords are leaping, and with a few drinks in you. That was tough. So, but we lost her. And, it was a long battle with cancer, so we lost her. So my mom heard that her daughter was planning on doing Christmas Eve this year. And the phone call with her, she goes, "Rich, I think it's too soon to have a Christmas Eve." And I said, "Mom, you're getting into your 80s, Mom. How do you know that you're going to be here next year?" And she, thought about it, and she goes, "Okay, let's have Christmas Eve." But that's, don't stop. You don't know who's going to be around the following year. And let's celebrate the people that are here this year, and let's come together and honor her. We're going to make, the cookies that she made. Because that's another thing, if you noticed in, the book, I included the recipes that were special to my family. The Picel cookies, the Italian cookies. My Aunt Mary would always have them at the table. So I said to her daughter, I would love to put the recipes in the book to also honor Mary. And she goes, "I would love that." So not only are we going to honor Aunt Mary this Christmas Eve, we're also, her recipes are now in the book that everybody can make her cookies.
Well, we're probably going to be using them in this house because Galen loves to bake with his grandma. And they are always in the kitchen, and he's so funny because, most people don't think of snakes and baking, but he is absolutely passionate about being in the kitchen and baking with my mom. And and it's so lovely because he's in there and he's, she teaches him all the different ingredients and everything that goes in. And, it's all of these things that add up to those moments of allowing these connections to come. And I know that's probably one of the questions that the audience is going to have about this is, well, how do we connect with these spirits that are around us? And I know for myself, and I'll ask you guys this as well, because I think this is something all of us can touch on, is that when we're in that state of allowing, when we let go, those are the moments. It's not the times where you're sitting there pushing a connection. It's those moments, and all of a sudden something starts to happen. So I don't know, Mike, maybe I'll start with you and you can talk about that, because this is something I know everybody here has experienced.
We were talking about smells earlier, and I'm just listening along, and you mentioned smells, and I immediately smelled my grandmother. Immediately.
Wow.
And that was the grandmother who, visited us when we were doing our little seance at your place, Morgan. And it's just like, poof, she was there instantly, and for me, that's the way, Richard, you talked about being able to see things in your mind's eye, and I kind of can do that a little bit. I don't think I'm not completely tuned in, but I know things happen for me in that way, and smell sometimes is a real big indicator of how things are. So it's really interesting. Like you go back home. I'm going back home for Christmas this year. It's my dad's last Christmas, we're pretty sure. So I'm going back home for Christmas, and I know I'm going to smell smells in the kitchens of the houses that we go to that are going to take me back in time, and help me to connect with people who are long gone.
Yeah, Richard, what is it? What has that been like for you?
That's a beautiful thing. When the spirit world communicates, they don't always show the imagery through your mind's eye. It's all your psychic clairs, right? So smelling, tasting, sometimes you actually hear like a song or a lyric.
Mm-hmm.
But there's times where I'm doing a reading, and one of the readings that I did, there's a taste of anisette in my mouth. And I'm like, I taste anisette. And I'm like, this is cookies. And then the next image I see in my mind's eye, I get the taste of the anisette, and in my mind's eye, I see the image of Cookie Monster. And I'm like, I need when this comes to me, I know it's coming to me because I wasn't thinking about Cookie Monster and anisette cookies. So I'm like, I got to mention this to the group that I was reading for. And I said, I have to talk about the anisette cookies and a Cookie Monster. Woman raises her hand in the back. She goes, my loved one loved anisette cookies, and we would make fun of him because he would eat them when the tray came out. We called him a Cookie Monster. And again, that to me is a tether, that, information that I have no way of knowing, that connects her uncle to her through the taste I got and the imagery of the Cookie Monster and the sheet of cookies.
I just tasted my grandmother's molasses cookies when you were saying that.
Awesome. They have a way of impressing that upon us. So sometimes you'll be somewhere, you'll smell the baking, or you'll smell the cigarette smoke. Sometimes it's not cookies. Sometimes if they enjoyed smoking and they know that you would know that the smoke was them, they would come through with that smoke smell. I had an uncle that would smoke cigars, and I was at his daughter's and I smelt the cigar smoke. And I'm like, I smell your dad. And she's like, where? And again, it was around Easter time, but again, just letting us know that he was there. So smells are very important, and they transport us. And it's an instant thing. The same thing with taste. All of a sudden, I'll be like, oh, I could taste like a tomato sauce. And if that comes up in the reading, I'll be like, was your grandmother a cook? Because I'm tasting like really like fresh tomato sauce.
Getting
and
hungry.
A lot of like basil. I want to say like she's using too much basil. And then all of a sudden, then that comes through. So they definitely use all of our senses. So smell, taste, hearing, and then that just sense of knowing that they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's what is often misinterpreted for so many people, is the fact that they think they're kind of expecting a Christmas Carol, right? Where this ghost sort of appears in the middle of the night, or they're expecting to see this apparition show up. We kind of have been impregnated by the media as to what this connection is supposed to be. And it's exactly like what you're saying, Richard, where this comes in very personal ways to different people. And it's not going to be cookie cutter. It's not going to be, it's this one thing and everybody's going to experience it. There's been many documented cases, even over the centuries of different apparitions showing themselves to a group of people. Everybody sees the fact that they're doing the same thing and show up in the same place, but they look different to everybody depending on what that person is connecting with about that particular person. It might be the 70-year-old version versus the 20-year-old version or something like that. And and so I think people have to understand that these connections come in these different ways and to not brush them off. You know, if you feel like, no, this was meant for me, it probably was.
I do the artwork. So as I'm seeing spirit in my readings, I sketch the essence of who I'm seeing. And like you were saying, sometimes females, when they cross over to the other side and they pass older or sick, they carry a little bit of their vanity with them. Sometimes I'll sketch that female and she's showing herself as she did when she was 40 instead of when she was 60 and she passed. And then all of a sudden I'll get an image from the daughter or from the son a week or two later, and they'll be like, you sketched my mom when she met my dad. And that's how they come across. So it's not always them on their deathbed. Sometimes it's them in the prime of their life. I sketched other photos of when fathers were in the military. And it's, how the hair was, and I'll get, the kind of awards that he would have had. And so it's other aspects of their life. It's not always them on their deathbed. And that makes you
that imprint.
Too. Yeah,
that imprint that they've left. That's such a key point, is that these emotions, especially when you're in the prime of your life and things like that, really is reflective of where they are now. It's this prime, joyous, non-physical space, which is why the TV shows drive me nuts. And they're like, oh, they just died a horrible death and they're stuck somewhere. Drives me insane. Drives me nuts. Just quit a TV show because of this. Yeah, right.
Everybody's it's all the stone tape thing going on everywhere.
It makes me nuts. So I think this is exactly, and this is why I love this book, exactly what people need to hear, is the fact that they are there, they are present, they are conscious, they're up in pure joy, non-physical energy. The only ones that get stuck are us. We get stuck in the grief, we get stuck in the pain, we get stuck in the depression, we get stuck in the, oh, poor me. We get stuck in all of these things, and we don't get to reach where they are, And it's like, and they're waiting. They are waiting for us all the time to connect in. They're there all the time. And that, just waiting for that connection. So we've got to ask ourselves, what can we do to get to that frequency, to get to where that is? And I think, Richard, that's what you've discovered as well in your journey.
Yeah, and it's quieting the monkey mind. It's quieting the chat. It's learning meditation. It's learning energy work. It's learning to balance chakras. It's learning how to get in tune, because it's just like playing an instrument, right? You could play guitar. You could learn a chord. You could learn 2 chords and you could get a little better at it. You could learn 3 chords and you might be able to play somewhat of a song, but it's the same thing. It's the intention that you put into learning how to use the instrument. So if you consider yourself the instrument, it's learning how to get yourself in tune to the afterlife and how to tune yourself into that frequency to receive these messages from those across the veil. And it's truly quieting the monkey mind, because our minds are going, 24/7. We're always thinking about something. But when we learn how to quiet that down and to learn how to interpret the symbolism that comes in, when you ask spirit to come close, what do you start seeing, right? Is this coming to you or is this coming from you? Because you would be able to start to decipher if that's coming from internally or if that's coming from an outside source and it's dropping down. Because you know that it's something that you didn't think about. And all of a sudden this image just drops down into your mind's eye. And you go, oh, wait, I wasn't thinking this. So this is coming to me. So that's one of the ways, when things pop into your mind and it's just so random, and you make a note of that, quieting the mind, quieting that monkey chatter, and asking for signs. Signs are around us all the time, and sometimes they're not so obvious. This one woman that I was working with said cardinal. Cardinal was her sign. Cardinal was her sign. And I told her, you'll see them everywhere. You'll get a lot of people that say cardinals are mailboxes, greeting cards. You see cardinal all over. Well, she was driving home. She was cut off on, the highway by an 18-wheeler that said Cardinal Trucking. I'm like, well, there you go. That's a sign.
Yeah.
And you were asking for a bigger one. So now you got it.
It's pretty big.
Doing a lecture in front of 100 people. I was talking about penguins. I said, why don't you pick something that you don't see every day in the summertime in Jersey? Penguins. Next day, I go to my office that I work. The screensaver pops up, and it's 14 penguins on an iceberg.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I came home the following day. I have an oil tank. There was an oil tank card. Fill up your oil tank. That it's cheap in the summertime. There is a penguin asking me to fill up my oil tank. So I got penguins for like 3 days straight. So I'm like, I get it. So that's another way. So if anyone out there is looking to connect, especially this time of the year, ask for signs, make them hard, make them special to that person that you have on the other side. Make it meaningful. So when they come through, without a doubt that it's them. Okay. And look for them in not the obvious places like the cardinal, cardinal trucking. Look at other places for it. Sometimes you're behind a car and there'll be a cardinal bumper sticker. Look for them in other places. And most of all, just open up and allow them to communicate, and don't switch into that left brain and start figuring out, what's going. Left brain thinking is just throws everything off. Yeah. And when you do mediumship, you can't think. You have to, just let it flow, right? That is how mediumship works, is we're just flowing and we're letting out what we're receiving. The only way that we do filter it is if it's harmful information. We don't want anybody to relive a harmful experience or a tragic, if their loved one died in a certain way. That's the only really time that we hold back the details. But, let it flow, and when you open up and you reach out to that loved one, you'll see amazingly how that connection is there. And just by, again, working on yourself, taking beginner mediumship classes. Even if you don't want to be a medium, learn how it works. Learn how your toolbox works, because we all have the ability. And that's another thing that just drives me nuts is people say, I have a gift. I have a gift. Well, if I have a gift, that means you don't have a gift. It's me special. And what does not make you, we're all souls, right? We all are aspects of the divine. We all have God in us. So if we all have souls, we all have the hardware. It's just learning how to use the program. So, and we can do that just by intention, dedication, and putting that time in and learning how your own mediumship works, learning your intuitive senses. Because again, we all have the intuitive ability. We're all intuitive. We all have gut feelings about people and things that happened in our life.
Yeah.
Get gut out of there. What did you have? You had an intuitive knowing. So we're all intuitive. So that's one aspect of what we're doing here with communication, is just opening that up a little wider and trusting it.
The one factor a lot of people forget, which is the letting go. I've had so many people come to my workshops or shows or whichever, and they said, everybody in my family received a message from dear old grandpa after he passed away, but me, and I don't understand why it hasn't happened to me. I was the closest person to them. And I've had this question. I can't count the amount of times. And, that's the one thing that I've always had to tell them is that, part of the problem is because you were the closest to them. You are the one that's going to feel the grief and disconnection a lot more than cousin Betty, who knew him twice a year at Christmas time. And that connection, that healing has to happen and that letting go has to happen before that connection can show up. Cause it's like being on a radio dial. You've got, him over here on 880 AM and then you've got you over here on 9.5 FM. Well, you're not on the same frequency, and you're not going to be for a little bit. So just, do what you can, heal what you have going on, and then allow for that connection and then ask for it, and it'll show up. It will show up every single time. But I think people need to be patient with themselves with this stuff. And, if it's not showing up right away, don't worry about it. Just take a breath. It's going to happen. But the more people hunt and look for it, not the right energy to have. You gotta, exactly like what you were saying, allow, let go.
My Aunt Mary's daughter, she's still like, why didn't my mom come to me yet? I go, wait, see, you're still in that mindset. I want my mom, you need to come to me. I said, it's when you let go and you don't expect it is when she's going to come through. In fact, she came to me about a week ago. I went to sleep. I had a dream, and there's Aunt Mary. She was a smoker. She's standing by a window, and next thing I know, we're right next to each other, and she looks at me and she goes, why'd you have to put my picture in your book? Because she was always conscious about her image. And I go, oh my God, it's nothing profound. It's not like, I love you, Richard.
Oh.
She asked me, why did I put her picture in my book? Yeah. That's Aunt Mary.
What are you doing?
So if that was anything that she would have said
Oh,
that
gosh.
to me.
Yeah.
Oh, don't
Love
take
that.
my picture. But again, that's her essence. So I called her daughter the following day. I go, Andrea, your mom was in my dream and I know it. And I shared that story and she's like, that's her. That's totally her. So, they come to us also when we're ready, and that's the other thing. So when we let go and we open ourselves up to it and we establish that we want that connection to happen, they meet us. That sacred, that divine meeting takes place.
One of the things that I love that you touched on in this book, which is always a huge theme during the holidays as well, is forgiveness and the importance of forgiveness during, when you are trying to connect with loved ones and things like that, but also that baggage that we internalize really blocks up our connection to our alignment, to source, to our health, to all of these different things. Do you want to just touch a little bit on forgiveness and maybe what people can do if they're feeling stuck in, whether it be against themselves, regrets for themselves, or just anger at some family member that's just, they know they're going to have some problems with this holiday. What can people do, Richard?
Well, the important thing is just realizing that you could carry anger, forever with you. And it's not going to do you any good by carrying that through your energy, through your physical. It's almost like a cancer in itself. And you can't keep carrying it from, month to month, from day to day. Yeah, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have to release it. You're going to have to release the anger, and it's through forgiveness. And, you have to do that for yourself. You don't have to worry if the other person, hears it. You could just say, I forgive what has happened to me. I forgive those that have done this to me. And just by that, you're stating your intention of forgiveness, and you're kind of wiping that energy slate clean again, that you've been carrying around this burden of anger. Because when you start thinking of what happened, what does it do? Raises your blood pressure, makes you sick, causes an ulcer. This is energy. Everything that we do, those interactions that we have with people, it's an exchange of energy. And when we deal with anger, that's energy. That's a low vibrational energy. And we do not need that in our lives. So in the process of forgiving those, or forgiving a situation that happened to us, we move beyond that. And, the whole book is really about a shift, creating that shift. And it's shifting into a place of being in total alignment and living the best you, right? And, and it's through the forgiveness. There's a story in the book about a woman that, started smelling smoke in her house. And I did a reading for her, and I go, it's your father. And she did not want her father to come through. She despised her father. She hated her father. She still hasn't gone to his grave. And I said to her, this is all about you healing that connection and moving beyond the anger that you had for him. She goes, well, why did he come through and my husband didn't come through? I go, well, this is between you and your dad. And your dad has come through because your husband now has passed. And he's trying to right things on his end. And he knows that he wasn't a good husband to you. And he knows that he wasn't a good father to you. So that's why he's meeting you. He's trying to do what he can now for his daughter. And if you don't want to accept it, you could totally say no and shut down that communication. But he's here acknowledging that he's trying to do what he can for you. And that's why you smell the smoke, because he was a smoker. And she still, to this day, was like, I cannot, forgive him. I can't forgive him. And we left it off like that. You can't force somebody to make the change. You have to willingly be open to it. But I did get an email about a month ago from this woman, and she started to seek help in letting go of the anger. So through possibly therapy. I mean, sometimes it's something that doesn't happen quickly, especially not knowing what happened between her father and her. Sometimes there's really deep stuff that needs to be worked on. But I was happy to hear that she's actually starting to make that change. and starting to heal, because anger is something we cannot keep carrying around with us. And it's through forgiveness that we kind of heal ourselves. So we have to remember that too. So if there's a loved one that you had that argument with, if it's something that could be squashed and something that you could bring healing to, I would suggest you do that, because anger doesn't do anything for the two parties.
What people often misinterpret as well is that they think that when their loved one has passed over, that they're still in that same ego body. And I know that's the one thing that Dr. Julie Bichel, who we all know, has discovered, and I have discovered through my research in mediumship and parapsychology and whatnot, is that doesn't get, that gets left behind. And what you're left with is this bright energy that is pure source energy. And, the person that you knew that was that, grumpy old bastard isn't going to be the grumpy old bastard when you reconnect with them. It's not going to be like that.
I love it.
Yeah. And I think, and that's one thing that throws people, because they're just like, well, why the heck would I want to reconnect with them? Because that's not who they are anymore. So again, it's that us getting stuck in what our picture of who they were. And that they've transitioned into who they really are. That wasn't who they really are. That was the broken pieces of who they really were, or who they were.
They evolve. Yeah.
They evolve. Yeah. Yeah. And right. I think that's a big thing. But I also wanted to touch on the forgiveness aspect, in the sense that when one of the best definitions of forgiveness that I ever heard was the idea that when we're in the process of forgiving, I think people believe that somehow they're making it okay with whatever happened. And that doesn't have to happen. You're not saying whatever happened was okay, I'm going to forget about it. You're doing this, like you were saying, Richard, it's for you. It's the energy that you're letting go. It's the toxicity that you're deciding, that whatever happened, not okay, didn't deserve it, shouldn't have happened, but making peace with where you are enough, and loving yourself enough to say, I'm not hanging on to this anymore. I'm setting a boundary. I'm not going to hang on to this. My connection with source energy and all this stuff is far more important than this. It's time to let it go. Did I get that
totally
right?
Yeah. That's totally, it's the letting go and doing it for yourself, doing it for the new year, not carrying stuff that you carried the previous year that brought you down, that made you angry, that hurt your physical. It's just moving each year to be a better you. And in the new year, again, as you're coming into the new year, it's letting go of those things, letting go of the shortcomings, letting go of, the things that no longer serve you. And that's very important too. And that's almost the best gift that you can give yourself, is creating a better you, a better shift, and learning from the past and evolving soulfully. I think that's what we're doing here. I think souls are always evolving. We're growing. We're learning. We learn from the bad experiences just as much as we do from the positives. We are always evolving and growing. And I feel like that journey doesn't end when we get to the other side. I feel like we continuously evolve and grow and learn. And maybe at one point we do become high in, the realm of spirit, right? And we become like the ascended master realm, or we're the angelic realm. Yeah. But we're still working our way up. We're still learning, and we're still evolving. And, and I think we can do that here. We can have an ascension here and not have to die to have an ascension. We could transform, we can grow, we can change.
Absolutely. I went through a period in my life where I was in a really dark place for a very long time. I still have periods of it, but I was a drug addict and a drunk and all of those things. I haven't done any of that stuff for almost 32 years now, but the journey of letting all that stuff go has been a 100% spiritual journey. It's so away from material and physical. It's all about the spiritual journey of letting the things go that made me want to go back to that well, for want of a better word. So these conversations that we have on this show, they boost me up. You know, like I'm flying high after every single show, especially this time of year. This is a hard time of year for a lot of people, And so if we can bring some way for people to feel like they have something that they can do to connect to, you know, the people that they miss, that's fantastic too, because maybe that's why Christmas is hard, because they miss Granny, you know. Maybe instead of missing her, let's connect with her a little bit and say hi.
When we get together and we share our stories from our past, and we talk about the things that she did in previous Christmases, and we share that with the next generation, she's right there at the table with us.
Yes.
You know, when we share the storytelling, because again, another thing that's at the core of Yule, right, is the tradition of storytelling and sharing these stories. So why not share our family story? And Mitch Albom said every family's story is a ghost story. And I, heard that quote and I go, I love it, because it is. The dead still sit at our tables. The dead are still around us. They're not dead. We just lost the physical. That consciousness, the light that made them who they were, is still with us, and we could still communicate with it. So pull up a chair, gather everyone around the table, and talk about Christmases from long ago. Talk about what they did, maybe if your dad was a jokester, tell some of Dad's jokes. Like that's how they live on. That's how they live on, and they present themselves right there at the table with us.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Well, on that note, tell people, Richard, where they can get this book, because I seriously, to everybody listening, please get a copy of this book, and get a copy for people that you know on your list who are maybe feeling down this year, or need that upliftment, or that are just flying high and in the best place and in a great place to be connecting with these spirits. Please go out and get this, because it's so good. So Richard, where can they find it and you?
Thank you for the kind words. You can find my book at www.richardmoschella.com. That has all the things that I'm doing, the events I'm doing. I have a blog on there. You'll see a lot of good stuff if you want to check that out, videos. And the book is available at Amazon. You can go to Amazon.com and purchase the book, Spirits of the Yuletide. And I'm really happy about it. And this is a book that I'm happy that it came out. Perfect timing for the holiday season. And thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate this conversation.
We're so fascinated by what you have to say, and your book is amazing.
Thank you.
Just sort of an aside, if someone wants to contact you for a reading, for a personal reading, would they do so through your blog or through your website?
Do it through the website, yeah.
Okay.
I do like the virtual, I do in person if you live in Jersey. But with the virtual, I have a whole list of the services that I do offer. So please.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
We'll put that all in the show notes so people can find it. And
thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you, because this is such a wonderful way to celebrate. And of course, when people are listening to this, it's December 23rd. So we've got Christmas right around the corner, and
perfect.
Which is pretty great. So Merry Christmas, everybody, and happy holidays,
Christmas.
Whatever you're celebrating. And we'll see you all in the new year.
And happy Yule.
Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
And that, folks, was fascinating. I love it. I love what he brought to the table. I immediately, as I do with most of our guests, added him as a friend on Facebook because I want to talk to him more about this stuff.
Yeah, his positivity and positive outlook on this, and how to literally lift your spirits and around Christmas, and how we integrate loved ones who have passed away, how we reconnect with our own spirituality, and in doing so, connecting and reconnecting with non-physical, if that's something that you need to do. I think this information is something that no matter where you sit on the spectrum of belief in this stuff, this isn't a change in anybody's belief. This is something you can add to what you're already doing. And that's what I really love about his book. He's not trying to push anything on you. It's like a toolkit that you can use to enhance the relationship with non-physical you already have.
It's interesting how this time of year, I mean, we talk about Samhain, Halloween, as a time where the veil is supposed to be thin, but interestingly, a lot of people believe this, the darkest time of the year, is really when the veil between this world and the next world is actually the thinnest.
I did a book with the wonderful Chad Lewis a couple of years ago called Winter Legends and Lore, and we kind of explored this. I did the art for the book, and we kind of explored this idea that this really is a time of connecting with non-physical. And we see that in some of the stories that we all know so well, like A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens, of course, writing about the ghosts and whatnot. But I think one of the reasons why I've always really enjoyed Christmas is that it really is about joy. It's what it's meant to be about, is about joy and about the spirit of giving and all of the things that I've come to understand is connected with the energy of who we really are. It's that same energy that we hear talked about from channelers, from spirits, from all of these different people that are connected within this. It all comes back to that joy, and so it makes sense to me that this is a time where maybe they're celebrating too.
The one word that comes to mind for me at Christmas time, like when I look back, it's cozy. It's this cozy, comforted feeling of being around family. There is joy. There's obviously joy around that kind of thing, especially when you're a kid. There's something magical about this time of year. Something really, truly magical. And I don't know what it is. It could be, maybe there's a whole bunch of people on the planet because it's the winter solstice trying to keep warm together and looking forward to the new year and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's all, New Year is all a construct. But anyway, that there is something to this time of year. Something is in the air around this time of year.
It's interesting to me how the kids, and this is very much in parallel with what we know in parapsychology, where the kids are more sensitive to it than the adults. And, you look on your Facebook feed or Twitter feed or whatever, and you usually see people going, oh, I miss Christmas when I was a kid, and oh, the feeling it had when we were kids. And it's very much in parallel to me when you hear kids or people think, wow, I saw that, I saw that apparition when I was a kid, or I saw, I had grandma pass away and phone me, and I sensed them around when I was a kid, but I don't anymore. And I see that same parallel with Christmas a little bit, where it's almost like adults get so bombarded with stress and everything going on around them, the what is around them, that it's not so much that Christmas feels different, it's that we tend to lose that connection. And that's a connection I think that we can get back at any point in time. That's a connection like what Richard's talking about, where we can connect back in to what that is. And it's not something that's external. It's something that's internal. It's an internal shift that needs to happen.
When he was talking about it being an inside job, it's something that I believe as well. It really helped me to get to that point internally where I feel like, okay, yeah, maybe I don't have to wish for something that used to be. I can sort of just tune into what is,
Yeah, it's that flow that's always there that we're talking about constantly. And I think that's something that we can either be disconnected from or not. We can tune back into it in the same way that we, tune into the spiritual side of things. it's something that we can tap into, but people have to take the time to do it, whatever that is for you. And of course, it looks different for everybody. There's no right or wrong way to do it. But I think coming back to that feeling, feelings, we have control over that. We can generate that. It's not whether or not there's snow on the ground. It's not whether or not we've got a new tree. It's none of that. It's something much, much bigger.
The Aussies still have Christmas at this time of year, and it's summer there.
Yes.
So there's some there,
the dead of their summer.
Right in the smack dab in the middle. It's hot. So, I don't know. So Richard's book, it is Spirits of the Yuletide. You can pick it up at all good booksellers and obviously online. I've read it myself, and I think it's fantastic, and it's worth reading, especially if you're looking for some history about tradition and that kind of thing, and connecting with the bigger picture at this time of year.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so fulfilling. And I really do encourage people to go out and get it, especially if you're in need of a pick-me-up this holiday. I mean, it's tough right now for so many people with financial strain and all of those things. But this is one thing that if you pick this up, you will not regret it. And it's something that you can use all the time, not just at Christmas. There's tools in here for every day, and it's really, really great.
Thank you for another fantastic year, dear listeners, and we love you very much, and we wish you a merry, merry, merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever it is that you're celebrating. We wish you the happiest, and as well a happy new year.
And remember, there is no line between the natural and the supernatural, especially at Christmas. All is consciousness. Until next time, stay curious, friends.
Supernatural Circumstances is a co-production of Entity Seeker Paranormal Research and Teachings and Good Egg Studios. This podcast is part of the Curious Cast podcast network. Theme music by Corey Johnson of Catalyst Records in Edmonton, Alberta. You can learn more about Morgan Knudsen at entityseeker.ca and learn more about me, Mike Browne, and listen to my show, Dark Poutine, at darkpoutine.com. Feel free to email the show at supernaturalcircumstances@gmail.com.